Today, we are breaking down one of the most dangerous rivalries on the planet, Iran and Israel. And what a story it is. It's about how two countries went from being secret partners to mortal enemies, staring each other down on the brink of an all-out war.
You saw the headlines. In 2024, for the very first time, Iran and Israel launched hundreds of missiles and drones directly at each other's territory. This wasn't some proxy fight anymore. No, this was direct state-on-state conflict, and it pushed the entire Middle East right to the edge.
But here's the twist. What if I told you that just a few decades ago, these two countries weren't just partners, they were secretly building advanced missiles together? It sounds impossible, but it's true. Israeli tanks were literally running on Iranian oil, and Israel's famous spy agency, the Mossad, was training Iran's secret police.
So what on earth happened? How did a secret friendship like that curdle into such a deep, profound hatred? All right, let's get into it. To really understand what's happening now, we have to rewind the clock. We're going back to the 1950s. And let me tell you, the Middle East looked like a totally different world back then.
So at that time, the big idea sweeping the region was pan-Arab nationalism, and the man leading the charge was Egypt's president Gamal Abdel Nasser. Now, this was a huge problem for both Israel, which was surrounded by hostile Arab neighbors, and for Iran, which was a non-Arab Persian monarchy. This shared threat created a perfect enemy of my enemy is my friend situation. Israel's founding father, David Ben-Gurion, even turned this into an official strategy he called the periphery doctrine. The idea was simple: make friends with the non-Arab countries on the edges of the Arab world. And what's just wild is how deep this secret partnership went. I mean, look at this. Israel needed oil, desperately. So Iran started secretly shipping it, eventually supplying up to 90% of Israel's needs. They even built a pipeline together to get around Arab blockades. In return, Israel gave them security help. Mossad agents trained the Shah of Iran's feared secret police, the Savak. But the high point, or low point, depending on how you see it now, was 1977's Project Flower. This was a top-secret billion-dollar joint program to build a ballistic missile. Israeli engineers were right there, on the ground in Iran, building the factory.
And then, in 1979, it all came crashing down. An ideological earthquake just ripped through the region, and absolutely nothing would ever be the same again. The Iranian Revolution toppled the Shah and brought a new man to power, Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini. And his view of the world was the polar opposite of the Shah's. For Khomeini, any alliance with the West, and especially with Israel, was a deep betrayal. He made his new ideology crystal clear, right from the very beginning. And this right here just perfectly captures that dramatic shift. Khomeini didn't just cut ties. He made this incredibly powerful symbolic move. The building in Tehran that had been Israel's de facto embassy, he seized it. And then he handed the keys over to Yasser Arafat of the Palestine Liberation Organization. What was a symbol of a secret friendship became the official embassy of Palestine. An ally became an arch-enemy, literally overnight.
But the conflict didn't end. Oh no, it just changed. It went underground. For the next 40 years, Iran and Israel would fight a hidden, clandestine war, a shadow war, and each country came up with its own very different playbook for this new reality.
Okay, so Iran knew it couldn't win a straight-up fight with an American-backed Israel, so it came up with a strategy called forward defense. The basic idea was to export its revolution and fight its battles far away from its own borders. How? By funding, training, and arming a whole network of proxy groups, like Hezbollah in Lebanon and Hamas in Palestine, creating what people now call a ring of fire right on Israel's doorstep. Now, Israel, on the other hand, became focused on one single existential threat above everything else: a nuclear-armed Iran. Its strategy was guided by something called the Begin Doctrine, and this policy was simple and brutal. Israel would use any means necessary to stop any of its enemies in the region from getting the bomb. This meant their war would be fought by spies and saboteurs, not by armies. So this is the crucial part. You've got two totally opposing game plans. You can see it right here. Iran's strategy was all about projecting power outward, using its proxies. Israel's strategy was to strike inward with covert ops to take out what it saw as a threat to its very existence. For 40 years, this was the deadly, undeclared game that they played. And the tactics were straight out of a spy movie. We're talking about Mossad agents pulling off a wild raid on a secret nuclear archive in Tehran, smuggling out half a ton of documents. Israel allegedly took out Iran's top nuclear scientist using a robotic machine gun controlled by satellite. And on the other side, Iran's proxies were firing relentless rocket barrages into Israel, while Israel was carrying out constant airstrikes on Iranian targets inside Syria. Which brings us right back to 2024. Because in the spring of that year, the unwritten rules that kept this 40-year shadow war from exploding, well, they weren't just bent, they were shattered into a million pieces. It all kicked off on April 1st. An Israeli airstrike hit an Iranian consulate building in Syria, killing a very senior general. Now, you have to understand, under international law, a consulate is considered sovereign territory. So for Iran, this wasn't just an attack in Syria, this was an attack on Iran itself. A red line had been crossed, and the response came on April 13th. For the first time ever, the Islamic Republic of Iran launched an attack from its own soil directly at Israel, over 300 missiles and drones. And with that, the shadow war was over. This has dragged both countries into a terrifying new era of direct confrontation. The old playbook has been completely thrown out. The shadow war is over. And now, the question everyone is asking is a total war next?